What's going on, guys? Tom Westrom here at MassLive.com. I'm joined by Chris Grenham of CLNS and SB Nation and all kinds of places. My beat partner John Corrales is down in the media room banging out one more story.
I'm John.
Banging out one more story before the start of the game, but we're going to break down just kind of what to expect tonight. Got some questions courtesy of Twitter. I'm going to talk about my crazy travel experience. You guys are going to have to listen to it, but we'll get to all that. First things first. I'm excited to see tonight that there's been a lot of sort of positive vibes around the Celtics over the last couple of days. Brad Stevens talked about it pregame. You could just kind of tell. I mean, Kyrie was in a better mood the last time he talked to everybody. This team feels like it's just kind of in a better place, and that doesn't mean anything, but it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you wrote a story about it this morning. It was just they kind of came to the realization that there's a lot of, as you phrase it, story to be written. There's a lot of time left, and they're not, like Marcus Smart said this morning, their goal is still to make it to the finals. Their goal is still to play late, and that's not unattainable right now. And I think, like Brad said, the vibes are as good as they've been in a long time, and that says a lot to where they are right now. I mean, it's far from over, at least at this point, and they believe that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, vibes actually kind of matter with this team.
They totally
think
do.
Previous years, it hasn't mattered as much, and I think this has got to be frustrating for Brad, who preaches and preaches and preaches, don't get too high, don't get too low. Like, he says that every single game, and these guys have gotten way too high and have gotten way too low. Clearly before the season they were too high on themselves. Clearly midway through the season they got too down on themselves. Like, they have not been able to find that happy medium that every Brad Stevens team has been able to find to this point.
Yeah, it's like a total roller coaster. They win 10 out of 11 and then they lose back-to-back to the Lakers and the Clippers, and Marcus Morris starts spewing off about how it's not fun and they're miserable. So it's that weird up and down, and Brad has said it all year long. Gordon Hayward during his rehab, I mean, he was saying don't get too high on the highs, too low on the lows, but they have not managed that well at all tonight, and this road trip is a really good opportunity to kind of step forward and put all that behind them. And I think this is like, I don't want to say a last-ditch effort, but this is like a real last hurrah going forward.
It's kind of a last-ditch effort. I mean, if they come out of this road trip and they have a bad stretch, I think that's really damaging because, you only have so many chances to sort of establish yourself and to sort of set your own narrative. Not even for what everybody else is going to be talking about, just how you feel about yourself. And this team has had no good reason to feel good about themselves. They tried to sell us the story of how they play well against the good teams, not against the bad teams. That went out the window as soon as Toronto curb stomped them in Toronto. At this point, they need something like this to sort of galvanize themselves, I think. And I mean,
a 3-1 road trip is ideal. That's like my goal, and they can totally flip the script here. If they go 0-4, it's just the dumpster fire gets even bigger, and it gets really, really ugly. But I don't know. I mean, tonight you've got no Klay Thompson, so that helps Kyrie's effort. I'd like to see him work off the ball a little bit with Smart on the ball tonight. So there are things boding well for them, whether it's the vibes, whether it's who's missing for Golden State. They've got a chance tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the funny thing about this team, and we've said this all year, it's not just tonight. They have a chance every night. They have so many good players on this stupid team.
Yeah, I was talking to Sam Packard before the game about it. It's like, I have no idea what's going to happen every night, and that's some of it's exciting, some of it's really depressing, but it just depends on which way it goes. But yeah, it could really go any which way.
Absolutely. All right, so we got a bunch of questions here via Twitter. We're going to go through some of them. The first one, and the most important one, is from my guy, Adam Himmelsbach of the Boston Globe, who wants to know how I dealt with my luggage getting lost.
We saw how Corrales dealt with it live on Twitter. You were a little more private about the matter.
So my bag got lost, and if you ask certain airlines for reimbursements, they will allow you to go on a shopping spree. So pro tip, I went out. Himmelsbach wants to know what was my approach. How did I factor in value, convenience, style, and climate? Here's my whole approach. I bought shoes, and then I bought cheaper stuff after that. So
that's a good system.
There you go. You get new shoes.
I like that system. I was with Corrales through his ups and downs on the flight yesterday. It was not pretty. You handled it in a much better way, I would say.
All right, so actual hoop stuff. James at what_James_said wants to know, if Kyrie leaves, is there a hopeful future centered around Tatum? I think it's a really interesting question. It's probably worth getting into more in a different setting, but let's touch on it here. It depends kind of what you mean by hopeful. Does this team have a really solid young core? Absolutely. I mean, Jason Tatum is a stud. Jaylen Brown is a stud. These guys are really good. Is this team a championship contender in the next 5 years?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, it gets really, really difficult. So for me, this team has been building toward trying to have a championship contender since 2013 when they blew everything up.
Right.
That's been their whole goal. They have been so close because they have Kyrie, and they're going to try to, they've been trying to trade for Anthony Davis, or trying to wait to trade for Anthony Davis. That's how you get back to being a championship contender to me. If Kyrie leaves, sure, there's a hopeful, young core.
Yeah. But that's really it.
That's kind of it.
I mean, you kind of hit it. It's how you define hopeful. Because the situation with or without Kyrie, it's all right, well, where do you want your team ceiling? Because you get rid of Kyrie, we all know that ceiling falls a lot. And they don't have the championship contender possibility. But, I mean, obviously, you have a young core of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and that's great. But it's probably not going to get you to the level that you'd like to be with Kyrie. And like you said, that's what they've been pushing for since 2013.
Exactly. It is so hard to find the exact right young guy who will be a title, who will propel you to a title.
Right.
I mean, that's even somebody like Tatum, who is obscenely skilled.
Yeah.
He could get there, but it's going to take a while. You're going to have to find the other pieces.
It's weird. I feel like we've been watching him for 10 years at this point, but we really haven't been. There's still a lot of uncertainty there, so you don't know.
All right, so let's go to @Title City Boston. Michaela wants to know which team in the East has most riding on them regarding the postseason.
Has most what?
That has the most. Period.
Gotcha.
Riding on them regarding the postseason. It's Boston. I mean, if they flame out in the first round, they might lose Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
They probably don't trade for AD.
Yeah.
If they go to the finals, they probably keep Kyrie. They might be able to trade for Anthony Davis. I mean, it's not quite that simple, but it's close.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, simply off of future repercussions, what happens this spring is it's so meaningful for this offseason and even off seasons to follow. That alone makes it Boston. 100%.
And it's wild because there's other teams for whom the postseason is crazy important.
Yeah.
Toronto's trying to hang on to Kawhi freaking Leonard.
Extremely critical.
The Sixers are trying to prove that they can build around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons.
Which,
I mean,
I don't know about that in terms of who they have now. That's another story, though.
And I mean, but that,
But
all
you're
that
right.
stuff
There's
is
a lot riding
crazy
on a lot of
crucial.
teams.
Yeah. So, I just think in terms of league-wide, everything else, I think it's got to be Boston.
Yeah, I agree.
It looks like @St. Francis with no vowels. Wants to know, has Marcus Morris shot himself out of the starting lineup? The short answer is no. He's gonna keep starting. The second, I guess the longer answer is more interesting to me, and it's that Brad is not the type of guy who wants to make changes. He wants to ride with what he's doing, and he just wants everybody to start playing a little bit better. He wants Morris to just start shooting a little bit better, play good defense, and then go from there. That has always been Brad's MO, and it's sort of the gamble that he's taken, which is let's see where these guys are. Let's see, let's keep what we have and hope that everybody gets a little bit better.
Right.
Express the confidence in them and go from there.
Gamble's key. I mean, that's what it is. It's a gamble because I'm under the impression where I think I would like to see Jaylen Brown jump into this starting lineup. I mean, he's had a spectacular last month and a half or so. I think he's played better on both sides of the ball than Morris has. Morris has just been really inconsistent. After being the most consistent factor on this team for the first couple months of the season, I'd also like to see Shemi Ojale jump back in. But no, I don't think he shot himself out of the lineup just because of Brad's mantra. That's just what he does. He's not one to yank someone out and throw him on the bench.
Absolutely. That actually brings us to another question that we'll just hit on real quick. Craig is funny says, do you think there's any benefit to giving some of Mook's minutes to Ojale? I've been high on the Ojale train for a while.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile giving it a shot.
Yeah.
So
you talk about energy. This is something this team has lacked a lot over these last couple bad losses. Shemi will bring that. He's solid on both sides of the ball, at least as of late when he's gotten minutes. So I'm all for that.
Yeah. GKD34 says, when is it appropriate to tank? The answer to that was from the start of the season when you might have had a shot to get Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
That is the answer to that question.
The second you watch a Duke game is when it's appropriate. Yeah.
Let's see here. We got one person asking, we got Kenny Bouch saying, how about a change of Hayward to the starting lineup and move to the bench? There's been a lot of Hayward chatter, which is funny because he's had a rough rough post-All-Star stretch.
Yeah, really rough. After a really, really good pre-All-Star stretch. I mean, he was shooting over 60% for the 3 or 4 games leading into the All-Star break. Then he sprains his ankle over the break when he's working out at the facility, and it's all been kind of hit a wall. So, I don't know. That's a weird situation as well.
It is. We'll get to one final question after this. City Bash just commented on here and said that he sees Smart having a big defensive game. Klay Thompson is out tonight, and that makes Smart crucial because now he can just match up with Steph Curry.
That's huge.
That's massive for the Celtics because Kyrie can now hide on Sean Livingston or whoever ends up starting, Damian Lee, whoever it might be, and they can just throw Smart at Steph Curry, say, listen, be a pit bull, maul this guy for the next 48 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, no Klay Thompson is so big on both sides of the ball. People don't realize what an elite defensive team this Warriors team is, and without Klay, especially in this matchup against Boston, it's gigantic. Especially for Smart on the defensive end.
Yeah, and it's funny. It'll be interesting to see tonight. The Warriors have actually been a very middle of the road defense this year. They're like 15th in defensive rating. So it'll be interesting to see kind of why that is. Is it just effort? Is it DeMarcus Cousins?
I was going to say a lot of targeting of Cousins going on. Yeah.
The Celtics are going to do that. They love to target guys.
They did it really well in Boston too. Then Cousins got into foul trouble, which wasn't really the best news for the Celtics, honestly.
Last question we'll touch on here. Nick_Collins14 says, what lineups would you like to see the team utilize more for the remainder of the regular season? I have 2 answers for this. The first one, I like to see Jalen in Smart spot, not as starting or anything like that. Just I like to see what he does next to Kyrie and Tatum. I always think that's interesting. He told me a couple of weeks ago that on this team he's an energy guy, and next to Tatum and Kyrie, he's just like an elite energy guy. Hey, we got Corrales. Look at this well-dressed guy who also went on a shopping spree.
New clothes.
So I think that's really interesting to see is him being that energy guy next to next to Kyrie, next to Tatum, all that kind of thing.
I 100% agree. And I mean, that all spurs off of his last 2 months, month and a half. He's been phenomenal. If Aaron Baines can kind of get back into the fold, obviously he's still shaking off the rust. I really like that Baines-Horford combination. I'd like to see a lot of that going forward. That's what I'm looking for.
That was my second one, was Baines-Horford. Brad talked about that a little bit before the game. It kind of depends on the matchup that they run, but that duo defensively can just be an absolute juggernaut. A couple of times last season, I think the Baines-Horford starting lineup with whoever else was in there on last year's squad had a defensive rating of like 95.8.
It was ridiculous.
Which is obscene.
Ridiculous.
Obscenely good.
If they could get back to that level, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
All right, guys. We are 11 minutes and 28 seconds away from the start of Celtics Warriors. It's going to be a fun night. I'm Tom Westerholm. He's Chris Grenham.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Don't read any of his stuff.
Don't go on Celtics blog. Don't do it. Just kidding. Do it.
Just read MassLive.com/Celtics. You can find me and John Corral